I've spent a lot of time in the airlines. It gave me an appreciation for the systems they have. Brandon Turner, I heard him talking. He's like, the way I went from 30 units to 16,000 in 5 years was because of systems. I'm like, hey, we got to systematize. So I started learning about that. And then I tried to apply airline style systems like directly, and it doesn't work. So you have to make the systems for the business you're in.
Welcome to the Path to Passive podcast, where we talk about building wealth and empowering lifestyle through commercial real estate investing for tech professionals. I always wish that other tech professionals reaching financial freedom had documented their journey along the way, so I'm doing it for the rest of us. Join us as we explore stories, many failures, and lessons learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. Chad Freeman, thanks for being on the show here. We were just chatting, having way too much fun here before hitting record, but your story is really cool here, man. You were doing mobile home parks, I would say, before it got cool on the 2020 or so, but definitely your story is cool because you were in mobile home parks, left, and then came back into mobile home parks. And you've been doing some other really neat things here too, and really focused on systematizing and getting the processes down, which I know the tech professionals listening, of course, love because we're all about process as well as outcomes. But for those of the listeners here just getting to hear you, just getting introduced to who you are, Chad, talk a little bit about what that story was like. How did you get in the mobile home parks and to decide now I need to kind of take a break and then come back into it?
Well, so I found a mobile home park boot camp manual at my now business partner's mother's house. And they've always been into investing. I've known them since I was a kid. So I'm like, hey, what is that? And she said, it's Frank Rolfe's mobile home park boot camp. I was like, oh, is that good? And she's like, it's really good. I took it twice. So I think I've taken it 5 times now or something. But
Wow.
That got me into it and started with my education in 2015. I'd never left the space since then. We bought our first parks in 2017. We just had a syndication that we started and then we stopped. So we stopped in buying mode, but we've owned properties since then. So we're going back towards buying mode soon here.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, so Frank Rolfe. Okay, I mean, it's a legend of the name in the space. And so it was going into acquisitions and really kind of doing some and then really understanding them with the operations and just kind of tightening that. And so you're talking about the modes, kind of operate and learn mode and then back into buy mode. Is that kind of fair summarization?
Yeah, life events too. I went through a bad divorce, so it kind of melted things down. We returned investor capital with the interest we promised too, by the way. So yeah, so it's kind of a reset and then clean up, polish our operation that we have and systematize, like I was saying, and then ready to grow. So that's what we're starting to do right now.
Yeah, man. Well, I hope everything has turned out the best as it can be for that. But I'm glad to see you on your feet and kicking ass here.
Yeah. And it's funny you made a comment about when they weren't cool. Like they're starting to get cool. People are starting to recognize them. But I remember my buddy and I, when we first bought mobile home parks, we were over at his family's house and his 2 aunts were just telling us how stupid we were, why these trailer parks and how just they couldn't believe how dumb we were. Mm-hmm. When we go to sell them there, I think we're very dumb anymore. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting point here. I told you this is something I wanted to talk about because you had mentioned some other guests that were on the show already. Leo Young, we were talking about Ian Noble, some other people that were in the space with mobile home parks. And on this topic of people coming into mobile home parks and just kind of take a step back and set the frame for the listener here. It's like, I can think of at least 3 or 4 people who were in multifamily. And then I hear after a period of time, they've kind of pivoted to self-storage or pivoted to mobile home parks, right? But then on the side of, well, why mobile home parks? It's because there's a moat around it. They're not making any more of them, right? And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, if you can't really build these things and there's a finite number, why do people keep getting in there? So for those who maybe have heard something similar, can you maybe break this myth or expand upon it or correct that here? Why do you think more people are coming into this space?
Maybe because of some of the consolidation and the institutional investors and what's been going on with big money moving in, but they kind of scraped off all the top best assets. So where I see all the opportunity, because I'm not an institutional investor, is the value add with the mom and pop under 200 spaces, and especially under 100 spaces. But Yeah, I mean, you hit on it, the moat. It's almost impossible to build a new mobile home park.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's an increasing demand. They're undervalued, so they're going away with a decreasing supply. So it's becoming more difficult to get your hands on them, but there's still enough opportunity out there. But they're seriously going away. We started looking in my favorite states to buy because we're building a buy list right now. In the Carolinas, especially, I've noticed like thousands of them are missing from just our 10 to 15-year-old list.
Nice.
It's incredible. Like we have somebody digging through it every single day, and sometimes they'll go a whole entire day with finding nothing because they're all missing. And we found that around Texas too, where there's like a high rise now or an apartment complex or a highway or all kinds of stuff. So people not wanting us to raise rent is another part of this because everybody freaks out when you raise rent at a mobile home park. Totally unfair. It's super, super cheap, like ridiculously cheap, less than a third or a third of a 3-bedroom apartment typically. But apartments never get any heat when they raise rents, right?
Yep. Yep.
It's because it's like been the redheaded stepchild and all this bad karma, or not karma, but just bad press that we've gotten because you
Sure.
think Jeff Foxworthy and cops and just like every time there's anything bad on TV, it's in a trailer park, right? So it's this terrible image, but that's not really reality. Those do exist, plenty of them. But if you operate it properly and clean it up, it's a nice, quiet place to live.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the systemization and the processes like you're talking about. But I want to dive a little deeper into what you were talking there too about the demand, that as a driver. This one is always a little bit interesting for me, and maybe I just don't know the customer that well. I haven't invested in mobile home parks. I've never been that close to really understanding the customer, the tenant there. But when you say that there is increasing demand, is it because of the affordability of it? And talk to me about what that increased demand looks like. Where do they come from? Why is there demand? What is the think on that?
Yeah, sure. There's if you look at how many people make under like $50,000 threshold, which is
Mhm.
pretty comfortable place to be in a mobile home park, and that's where you're looking at an apartment versus you own your own home, right?
Mhm.
So it's very affordable. And then there's like 100 plus million Americans making that much. Now look at our average single family price in the United States. It's well over $400,000, and I don't think it's going to come down. I think it's going to go up. We got
Yeah.
more inflation on the way. I don't see
Yeah.
their solution, right? So to me, we're looking at stagflation or inflation and this huge income gap between the poor and the rich, and
Mhm.
the higher earners are doing better and the people on the bottom are doing worse. So it's like the ultimate unsubsidized affordable housing, and it's really the only solution. But then you can't expand them and buy more of them. So there's this just huge demand coming in, but they're going away. So it's a great thing to have control of and get your hands on, and especially with interest rates coming down, because I can't guarantee it, but it sounds like interest rates are coming down to me over the next few years, especially. So if you buy now, I love the Warren Buffett quote where I think it's interest rates are to assets what gravity is to apples. So high interest rates drags it down, right? But low interest rates, your valuations go sky high and the cap rates come down and follow it. So be prepared to make a bunch of money right now if you buy in mobile home parks.
Cool. Yeah, I love the Buffettisms for
For sure.
sure.
Me too.
Uh, okay, makes sense. And those details are always so important to talk about. So I appreciate the framing of that too, because thinking about getting information from the experts in the space, like yourself here, operator doing the thing. Obviously, we've been paying attention to markets. You talked about getting into the space in 2015. So 11 years, if I'm doing the math about right. And so the moat that I'm not making anymore. We have the demand, especially because the macroeconomic plays for earners and what's going on in the world. So let's talk about this from a perspective of value add. Value add. I mean, if we're not making them anymore, one of the things that comes to mind here is like, well, how do you actually do value add there, right? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of the beast with what we're purchasing because most of them are owned by mom and pop. It's super fragmented industry. The last guess I heard was there's like 40 to 44,000, or yeah, about 40,000 mobile home parks. I would say less than that now, but institutional took the top 10%. So it's only like 4,000 that they own. The rest is solopreneurs, and it's typically built in the family or stayed in the family, and very often baby boomers now that really have nowhere to hand them off to, or their kids don't want them or whatever.
Mhm.
So there's this turnover happening as well, and they're typically mismanaged because mom and pop may or may not be great people, but they're typically not wonderful business owners, and they
Sure.
don't have the systems and the professional management, and then they just run out of steam and it goes to crap. So that's where you
Mhm.
come in and manage it professionally and bring it back up to life. And it's really cool too because there's a lot of history with mobile home parks that people really don't know about. So in operating them and bringing them back to life, you're restoring a piece of our heritage at the same time.
Yeah. Got it. And we're talking about like bringing them back to life. I heard you talk about this in other episodes where it's like if it has the meth dealer in it, it's a wonderful opportunity. Right. You know, right. Tongue in cheek, right? Kind of joking, not joking. If it has the problems, this is an opportunity to go and do better management, to bring in people, change the culture as well. But so that's obviously a thing. But is there other capital expenditures type of thing? When I think value add, I think of multifamily as an example. We're going to we're putting coverings over parking. We're doing washer and dryer stuff for the tenants. We may or may not be putting in a little park, like a little playground type of thing. We may be filling in the pool because it doesn't make sense anymore, whatever, right? But what does the CapEx look like on a mobile home park?
You got to be careful with utilities. You can get in trouble there. But mobile home parks are pretty simple. The concept is it's a parking lot. But the parking lot, if somebody wants to move a vehicle, it costs 10,000 plus to do it. So typically the vehicle just stays and it's personal property and it'll turn over. We'll help facilitate that too. If somebody wants to move, we'll purchase it and rehab it and resell it.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you watch out for like some big pitfalls with infrastructure, or you plan it in at the entry to get the CapEx done, there's not a whole lot. And that's why I like them better than apartments too, just because they're simple. And then it's a better tax write-offs too, because most of it's infrastructure, which is a 15-year straight line depreciation rather than buildings, 27 and a half or 32 and a half.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there's different ways to increase value. And a thing about mom and pop is they like to make friends with everybody and they don't want to collect money and they don't want to raise the rent.
Sure.
So once a year, now you use AI and take 2 seconds prompting and spit out a letter to your residents with all the research of why it's so cheap.
Yep.
Like to compare 2 to 3 bedroom apartments and show this is really cheap. That helps kind of ease the blow too. And we do small increments too, because we don't want to create a hardship to anybody, but raising the rent right off the bat, just up to fair market value is a huge value add. So everything that we've bought has been like around $300 for lot rent. The fair market value in the Midwest where we're at, it's like 600.
Wow. Okay.
It's coming up now. It's like in the 400 to 500 range for typical, because more people are coming in and buying them and starting to raise rents too. But so the easiest thing right off the bat is just to raise rent to fair market value, not to price gouge, but just go to fair market value. And that's like a rule of thumb is half the 2-bedroom rent in the area. That's roughly your lot rent, top of it for market value.
Wow.
And then you said like you're making changes to add value to the residents too. You can do the same thing. So you maintain all your common areas, you fix things that are wrong, things that people don't like. They don't want to deal with stuff like backed up sewers and headaches and huge potholes in the road. So you give them a smooth road to drive down and you fix what's wrong. And it's like restoring this massive old car or something, but you're restoring a community really. So
yeah.
And by just making it nicer, showing pride of ownership, we have like a yard of the month club, stuff like that. You get people involved. That brings down your cap rates too. When an appraiser sees a nice community, you're going to get a lower cap rate. And then the other advantage is we have homeowners. We don't do any rentals at all. Every time we try to do rentals, it blows up in our face.
Yeah.
And rentals have like a 50% annual turnover. Well, the average resident, I've been told, lasts like 14 years.
Wow.
With a little higher turnover, but steady. You have homeowners who have a vested interest in your community that way.
Right.
So that's how we go add value.
The owner mindset versus short-term renter around year or two really makes a difference, I would imagine, all on its own too, right?
Yeah.
And the potholes in the roads. It's like, oh, Bob, they finally fixed that hole. About time kind of thing. You talked about, what was it? Electricity or utilities isn't something that you want to touch much. Did I hear that correctly? Or something around
Yeah.
that?
So public utilities, we got water, sewer, gas, electric,
Yeah.
but the big ones are water and sewer. So we want public utilities because if you have a well, now you're a water company.
Yeah.
So we're not afraid of private utilities. We just don't like them nearly as much. There are some we are afraid of. We can handle septic. We have some septic. We have a well. It's a pain in the butt. Costs more money. Like I said, now you're a water company and you have to have an
Right.
operator and all this stuff. So city is much, much better. You're still in charge of the infrastructure typically. Sometimes cities will maintain the roads, but not typically.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to maintain the electrical systems. But when you get into private water treatment or wastewater treatment plants, those scare me, and our pockets aren't big enough to just go buying those all over the time because when one of those things goes out, it is a very large check, like 500,000 and up to go fix it. And you're probably gonna have trouble financing it. So then you're gonna have capital partners or you have a problem on your hands. So extremely good due diligence will handle that. There's also lagoons, which is just a giant pond of crap.
Yeah.
No, I won't touch that. And some states have shut them down, made them illegal too. So you have the threat of that. Private electric can be a little scary.
Yeah.
Be very expensive. You have to build that in if you come across something like that. There's also Orangeburg plumbing. Orangeburg was like the dumbest idea I've ever heard. It's basically wax cardboard that they made sewer pipes out of. That when you install these in the 50s and now they're, what is that?
70 years.
75, 76 years old. You're not going to have much luck with the wax cardboard at this point. So, and then private gas. I don't want to mess with private gas because if you have a water leak, it can be expensive and the grass is really green. But if you have private gas and something goes wrong, you're blowing people up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, each of these could be super interesting because it's a niche. But to your point earlier, and we can kind of pivot to that now, is it gets hard to systematize because you have ad hoc things and they're one-off things, right? That to have the like, oh, we've encountered that before with the septic or wax cardboards. Like, so I never heard about that one. So that's interesting. But you've made investments in really your team's intellectual property, your team's, I don't know, human capital, SOPs, and just knowledge base around how to do things. How did that? Anytime you get a system, it's because, oh shit, we should probably turn that into a system, right? So what were some of the things, how did you get to this place of doing your SOPs and systems? I know this is something that was important to bring up and talk about for you. So what was that story of like, you know what, maybe we should do something about that?
I guess it started, I've spent a lot of time in the airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me an appreciation for the systems they have. And it's very complex operation that they've made very safe, that is not inherently safe to go up in a tube doing almost 600 miles an hour in the lower part of the atmosphere. It's with burning fuel, right? But I really appreciate the systems I got from that. And I heard, I don't know, years ago that Brandon Turner, I heard him talking. He's like, the way I went from 30 units to 16,000 in 5 years was because of systems. I'm like, hey, we got to systematize. So I started learning about that. And then I tried to apply airline style systems like directly, and it doesn't work. So you have to make the systems for the business you're in. But I've learned a ton from the airlines.
Yeah.
And then we've bought into an operating system too. So I'm really enjoying the systems and we've implemented over almost a year now. We decided it was probably going to take us a year to fully systematize and figure it out. And we started last fall. And something I relied on a lot was the book Scale. And again, I've got a lot of books from Brandon Turner, but I read this book Scale. It's with Dave Hoffman. He was in on the airport check-in kiosk and he's a billionaire, awesome guy. If anybody wants like the most amazing keynote speech ever, go to billionaires.com and look up Dave Hoffman. It's incredible.
Got it.
He talks about his systems, his operating system and what he does. And so I started learning from that and how to practically implement them. It's not an operating manual. Those suck. They don't work from what I've found and been taught. And then I got coaching on it too. So
nice.
We write checks to go faster sometimes.
Yep.
That's one of them that we wrote. So it's been really great.
Yeah, no, that's Totally. Writing checks to compress time and go faster, like you're talking about. Yeah, billionaires. They're, oh my God, what's the dude's name? He runs it. Right on the tip of my brain. I got his newsletter, all the things, but some amazing resources on there too. But Scale, I haven't read that one. I obviously love the EOS stuff.
Oh yeah, Gino.
Yep. But that's a cool one. And then to your point about the systematization and mechanisms and how that really just kind of contributes to operational excellence, right? Because that's where you're going to tighten up everything and really help your investors, help the business, help your customers on site, right, at the properties. I I am curious. You said that you at first were looking at trying to apply airlines processes over to properties. Do you have an example of something like that? And I'll tell you why. I'll give you a second to think about that too, is because I'm thinking like, well, there are definitely principles and things I'm taking from the tech industry when I go into to real estate, my investments and things like that. But I'm kind of wondering where you have taken from the airline world and tried to apply it, and it was like, nope, not that one, you know? So
Well, it started with an operational manual, basically, which I've since found out it's not really practical. Maybe it's practical with the airlines. We started with that, but it's usually written from somebody that's not in the business, and it's kind of forced and not really used very well. And so that's where I failed at first, was trying to bring an ops manual in. I think the difference too is the airlines, there's a lot more consequences if you mess something up badly.
sure. Yeah.
So there's like everything's written down and you're responsible for it. And you screw something up, they're like, hey, it says right here, why didn't you do this? Now you're in trouble, buddy.
Right.
But because there's good reason for that, and because people have died because of it.
Yeah.
We have a system for what to do if there's no system in the airlines.
Yeah.
It tells you what to do, right? So, but that doesn't work with a mobile home park because it's just so much more simple. So I had to figure out like, what are the most important processes here? What are we doing most commonly? What's our company knowledge in my brain, in my partner's brain, manager's brain, that we need to make tangible and repeatable?
Totally.
Yeah. So, and then how to process map properly and run meetings. That was a big one because the meetings can be a huge time sucker that everybody hates. But if they're done right, people actually like them.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's one of those things where if there's value, it's like, oh, I better go there, right?
Yeah. And they're effective. So,
Okay. That makes a ton of sense. You said you bought into them, writing the checks, and then got coaching. So it sounds like you learned some stuff, even that on the implementation perspective, rolling it out to these different properties. Has that made can you share how that's made an impact to the properties and ultimately to maybe your team, but maybe to the investors as well?
sure. It's really great going to some events and having live coaching and doing exercises on your business and being in a room full of high performing entrepreneurs where most everybody in the room is beating the odds of I learned there's 31,500 businesses in the United States. Almost none of them will go on to break $1 million a year revenue.
Sure.
And then I was just in a room with several hundred people beating 10 million, $100 million revenue a year. So to be around those people and then make friends with them and change your peer group, it gives you the mindset to where I think your brain will like bounce up to that level. And then
Absolutely.
yeah. So change who you're around, right? Get around the right people. And then like, because at that point, $1 million, it feels like nothing when you're in a room.
Right.
Like first guys I met, they just made 12.7 million last year, and they did an exercise and unlocked another 4 million in sales this year. So it's like, I got to get there, or I'm just a loser. But it's very motivating. And then having good coaches. If you don't have good coaches, you end up paying the street.
Yeah.
Mistakes. And so no matter who you are, you got to have good coaches. And I've always had good coaches. Even since I was a kid in high school, I had great coaches I was on swim team, and a lot of success in my life is because of good coaching. I'm a big fan of David Finkel. He co-authored the book Scale that I told you about. So I've gone to some of his stuff, and that's where I first started really putting how the system should work from a perspective of making them instead of using them. And it started with that book Scale. So
nice. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I'm a total geek for a lot of those books. I love the systems and processes and obviously outputs and outcomes, right? Outputs and outcomes for sure. But that's awesome. I can't get enough credit to the idea of being around other performers to think about increasing the floor, right? Or raising the floor, like new standard around you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. If everybody around you makes $1 million, your brain's going to figure out some way to get there.
Yeah. You're like, oh shit, I got to do
Yeah.
this, right? How am I going to do it?
You feel out of place, right?
Yeah. Well, this isn't all you've been doing with the mobile home parks. You've been doing this and you've been doing foreclosures as well, right? So I'm kind of curious. Maybe we could talk about that after. You're doing mobile home parks. So you've got your team helping you with doing those back in the acquisitions mode, still operating the ones you've been in, but also doing single family homes and the foreclosure side. So we'll kind of round that out. And I'm wondering, is this on the foreclosure home side? So is this in Florida, or are you trying to build teams around like Sunbelt area for foreclosures as well?
I do a little bit in Florida, but I live part-time in Dallas too. So
Okay.
we're focused mainly on Dallas with that. And I got a lot going on too. So part of the systems and stuff I was talking about is how to get other people to produce work because there's so much of your time. We all have the same amount of time per day. So
Leverage. Yeah.
right, exactly. How to leverage and then really how to dig in and make your time more valuable to where you spend the time on what's most valuable, where you're creating the most amount of value rather than just doing tasking on low value activities.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big change for me over the last year and a half or so. And I was kind of coached into this is scarcity versus
Abundance
mindset. Yeah. So that was a big mindset shift for me.
Talk about those, and we'll see if we get to the foreclosure home side. What did you uncover there about? I'd say maybe the language that I think about is from, again, I referenced the book EOS, but I've referenced it a couple times. In other podcasts, Who Not How, Dan Sullivan, the entrepreneur coach, he talks about unique ability. So is this kind of what you're thinking about, like what you do best and then partner with other people with what they do best to like build partnerships for leverage? Is that what you're kind of talking about?
That's part of it. Yeah. You play on your strengths and what
Yes.
you enjoy doing, and you try to delegate the stuff that you're not good at that you hate doing. Like for me, I would rather pull my teeth out with pliers than do bookkeeping. So I got to find somebody who likes bookkeeping, right? And partner with that person, hire or whatever. So I just completely don't do it. Or you also find yourself when you sit down and do like a time matrix or write down all of your activities and assign a value to it, you realize you're spending a ton of time doing really low value activities. Like I completely eliminated shopping a while ago. It's you pay a little more for Instacart, but the value you create while you're not going to the store can be thousands of dollars per hour.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How to get that stuff off your plate, how to delegate, how to do it properly, how to hire people where you're getting more A players and then cutting your losses quickly when you don't have A players. I've been very guilty of hanging on to people I liked way too long that were low performance that I knew in the back of my head, or they're in the wrong position, or I put the wrong people in the wrong place. That's all part of our systems as well, is how to properly do all of that.
Right person, right seat, make sure they're a culture fit, hire slowly, fire fast, and then same kind of thing. Yeah.
And it's personality fit too. So we have a test that we use to make sure that you're the right fit for what drives you at work for that position.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important for a business culture. I mean, it's important for the leader too, right? Like yourself leading the company, you need to know that too. And it just kind of turtles all the way down, so to speak. So when you look back on your investing career so far and kind of like these lessons here, I mean, you've been in this space for like I said, the 11 years, and I know you're still airline pilot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it takes time, right? This is why you're talking about working with other people, creating leverage, doing what you do best, delegate the rest, et cetera. When you look back and think about these things you're learning now, how much of your path do you think would have changed if you learned many of these things like a decade ago?
I would have paid a lot less in mistakes, and I would be a lot further down the road in everything. And I would have so much more income and wealth, I would think. But who knows? I was once listening to one of my favorite monks. I like to meditate, listen to this guy.
Cool.
And he's like, stop wishing about what your regrets or what things may have been like. Cause what if it would have been worse?
Yeah.
You know, part of this, like learning these valuable lessons, they hurt, but they really stick when you do that too. And then for me, it showed me the importance of coaching. You cannot go, I shouldn't say you cannot because people do it, I guess, but I can't just go out and become a natural business person by trial and error. And I think a lot of people just want to, oh, I'll figure this out, trial and error. But it is a long, painful process for most people when you go do that. So
Yeah.
the good coaches go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Like you're talking about, writing checks to go faster. When you talk to some of the peers about investing, and what are some of the conversation points? Like, how do they go? Like with respect to that kind of have a two-part question here. I'll start with the first one, which is, how do you start that conversation? What does the conversation go like? Why they should invest in things like mobile home parks with you and your team?
Well, most of my peers are airline pilots.
Right. Are they coming in as limited partners?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We have a 506C that we're going to open up more funding soon. So
cool.
So yeah, we're GP LP relationship. And a lot of it really is huge tax incentives or tax write-offs, and it won't offset your W-2 income. I think some people think it will, but I don't think the IRS is going to like that. So that's not what it's intended to do. It can create income streams that are heavily tax advantaged or not taxed in cases, right? So anybody with high W-2 earnings is probably pissed about the amount of taxes they make. So it's a way to make more money without paying more taxes on top of it, like you do with your W-2 income.
Yep. But to your point too, I mean, the PALs, passive activity losses, are things that you could store as long as it would be on other passive income streams. Talk to your accountant and your tax professionals. But yeah, it's a good clarification, and it's important to be upfront. It's not going to, in this case, it may not or will not, likely will not, depending on your situation, reduce your W-2 income. But definitely that is the point, right? Of having your money work hard or harder than you, hopefully, right?
Yeah, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Put your money to work so that you don't have to work harder for your money to work for you.
Exactly. So I'm kind of curious, why did you get into some of the single family home foreclosures as well?
Maybe I had a moment of insanity or something. These foreclosures they're a different animal, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because with mobile home parks, I say, like, it's so much easier. You go meet granny and grandpa and you make friends with them. And if they like you, they might sell you their park in the next year or so, or soon if you're lucky, right? But it's a slow burn and a good, solid relationship. And then you start foreclosures and everybody on the planet's calling them, super high competition. They're going through some of the worst part of their entire life. They're stressed out, probably pissed off half the time, when it's really hard to get yelled at and cussed out and hung up on all the time. But it is one fantastic learning process too. We're getting traction. We've proven that we can do it. So at this point, we're just proving consistency on the deals. And I feel like we're getting pretty far down the road with that too. So it's been great. A huge advantage is just the cycles, like I said, and you get so many more cycles and negotiation cycles and learning human behavior.
Yes.
But that's a big advantage across the board my entire life with relationships and everything. So that's part of I really enjoyed of it. But at first I was like, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so is the thing to outside of for foreclosures, people, like you said, kind of when the worst places of their life, it's because they haven't paid the bank for 30, 60, 90, 120 days. They're in pre-foreclosure until the bank's actually finally like, all right, we're going to take it back. And so is the space you're in, this is what pre-foreclosures basically, right? Like people are late on their payments, working with them to do some kind of workout or pay them to go whatever their next step is and kind of give you the house. Is this the strategy that you're talking about?
Yeah. And we really try to add value. That's one of our core values, is to add value, touch to everybody we come in contact with for our customers. So I think most investors, from what I'm hearing, they're just calling and trying to do a low cash offer. Do you want to sell your home?
Right.
And they don't want to sell their home. They're in foreclosure. They want to try to keep it.
Yeah.
So it's more of let us help you with a strategy session. We can give you all of your options for real so that you know what's the best decision for you. And if you want to try to do a loan modification, if there's time, we'll try to help you through that. And we have
Right.
guides to get through that, or resources for bankruptcy and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times at the end of the day, you just have to walk them through everything so that they have to realize, hey, this is a trap. I need to get rid of this house. And you're not married to the house. So at the end of the day, then if we end up purchasing the house or wholesaling it, whatever we do with it, then that's where we make our money. But we also just provide a lot of value and talk to people for free and just try to be a resource.
Yep. Services, most definitely.
Yeah. And then,
Okay.
well, if you do it right, it's actually really rewarding too, because people end up thanking you. They think you're great because you did provide them value and help them out in one of the worst times of their life.
Yeah. Yeah, I've walked on the path a little on not both sides of it, but certainly I have made a lot of those calls and have gotten yelled at quite a few times. But at the same time, have been there to been part of the team to be thanked as well. So it's kind of cool. But that's awesome. So is that kind of like more chunks of cash while you're still in acquisitions mode for the mobile home parks because of the cycles, smaller cycles and then longer cycle? Is that the think?
Yeah, the idea behind it is to get a cash generating machine going and then
Cool.
that also feed more mobile home parks because that's really where my passion is with mobile home parks.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, good luck to you on all of those things. I know that you're love to work with people, investors in the mobile home parks too, just like you're talking about. So where would be the best place for people to connect with you and find you?
MHP, like mobile home park, mhpinvestors.com. That's a great place. And I'll give out a phone number of mine. If anybody wants to give me a call, shoot me a text. It's 702-706-6904.
Mhm.
Um,
Nice.
yeah. And it should be an email on the website too.
Yeah,
And
we'll make
LinkedIn's
sure.
all great,
I'm
right?
sorry?
LinkedIn, that's a great place too.
Absolutely. We'll make sure those are all in the show notes. Definitely go check it out, see what Chad's up to, check out the resources. These types of information is really important just to understand the space better. Go check out Chad, connect with him on LinkedIn. All right. If you enjoy this, would appreciate a review or just reach out to any other types of content you want to hear about. And with that, have a great one, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for being here, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Path to Passive. We love connecting with our listeners and those on the path to architecting their wealth and improving their lives. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see in the future episodes. Get in touch with us through email or Instagram. See you next week for a new episode.